Morning punters, here we are for this week's Punting Melbourne style. Dan Kelly, Mick McGuane.
Hey Potty.
Welcome back, Mick.
Hi,
Potty. Mighty Mick McGuane.
Great
mate. Good, very good.
Good.
Good to be with you.
So we'll do a different show again today. We'll only spend a little bit of time on Caulfield and then we'll just have a bit of general chat about the Spring Carnival and all that sort of stuff. Maybe a punting story, we'll see how we go. So a bit of a grubby week for me last week, and I probably sort of just overplayed my hand a bit there at Caulfield on Saturday. Got a little bit, over protective of the wind and what might happen with the track. And in the end, it was pretty straight shooting there. The track played, full credit to Jason Kerr. He took a risk on aerating the track on Friday as opposed to watering it.
Yeah.
And I think, it all come up pretty good. And they ran pretty true there. As I was going through the ratings today, reviewing the meeting, the horses have run, by and large, fairly true. There was a couple of earlier races from the chute where the winds had a pretty big impact, but by and large pretty straight. So like a small losing day for me there on Saturday. But our man Ralphie bounced back, so good to see Ralphie back on the front foot.
Was, mate, yes. No, he's been in he's been a bit of a comas.
Yeah.
But to his credit, I had a chat to him about it later in the week, and he was ready to, bounce back, and he sort of done his analysis. And as I said to him, if you can come up with the answers as why you lost,
yeah, then
you can move forward. If you're there scratching your head saying, oh shit, I'm worried about this happening again. I don't know whether, what's happened. So he made some changes, and he's bounced back, so good on him.
Just from an educational standpoint for both of you, when you talk about the wind might be playing an element after doing all your form going into a meeting, what subtle changes do you need to make to educate the punter that just might be just betting at a win?
Well, particularly Caulfield, because of the way the wind funnels into that side of the track up to the 1200 metre chute, it just tends to slow down the tempos in the middle of the race. So it does make the races a bit more random, and there's a penalty for the horses that are heavily exposed to it. So particularly the leader, outside lead box suit, they are exposed, so you guys got to be a bit careful then. But the problem with it is it's a long day, you know what I mean? The first race is 12:25, the last race is nearly 5:30 or whatever it is, and it fluctuates throughout the day. So as it turned out on Saturday, the wind really died after race 6. So
a horse for that example that it may have affected the Shidell.
Yeah,
or did it run up to its rating?
No, it didn't. No, but I think that was more just to do with her. She has a very consistent bank of ratings at a certain level, but every now and again she runs 2 or 3 lengths below it, and that's what she did Saturday. And Voodoo Magic's run right up to his mark. So, when I'm assessing race 7 on today, I'm a bit reluctant with Vega Magic. I mean, he's a horse that I'm in love with. I just didn't want to mark him as sharp as I could have, because I was just worried that the wind was going to be howling and they might have been moving off the rail at that point. But in the end, it just didn't happen. And with our man John Sadler.
Yeah.
Strikes again, John.
Oh.
Track's a good 3 in the morning. It's no change really. Just that they called it a 4 and then they changed it to a 3, and he scratches 2 horses.
Particularly one which was influenced the speed map in the big race.
Completely changed the speed map in that race.
People have been betting on that race since Wednesday. It's just anyway.
So I mean,
So is the rule wrong?
Yeah, for sure.
So what is the solution then?
Well, I just think unless there's a really significant change in the conditions, that scratching up the scratching time is just
4
a
to
no-no.
3 is not a reason to scratch.
No.
Maybe 4 to a 2, 2 levels up. But as you said, if it goes the other way, if it's a heavy 8 to a heavy 10, you're allowed to scratch.
Yeah.
My horse doesn't handles one heavy, but won't handle the real bog.
Well, if it starts off at,
Please.
If it's a 4 or 5 and you have an inch of rain or whatever, and it's downgraded to a 9, then it's fair enough.
Yeah, if it's a significant downgrade, and a good 2 can be nearly a road.
Yes.
Okay, well, but good 3, seriously? Anyway,
Keep
it up, Pete.
So, if I was doing that race in the half an hour prior to the race, I probably would have marked Vega Magic 6 to 4. So, I feel like I've overplayed my hand a little bit there, and that is what led to me having a losing day. And the same with race 8. Hell or High Water was just, there was so much to like about her in that race. From the minute I did it, because I had the wind and how I thought the track might play in my mind, I was trying to find a way around her. And then we get to that race, and as they're about to jump, I just thought, she's going to win this race. She's just
Mare in superb form.
She's going to go to the front. The wind's disappeared. They're staying on the fence. There's no moving around the track. All the horses that are chasing her are resuming or second up.
That helps.
So she's fit.
And the other part of the equation too, I think it's a bit like football's on windy days when the wind dies late in the game. They think that the wind has favoured one end, so they play with the protection mechanism. Yeah. Probably a jockey, in the view that you've said, the smart ones won't, but those that become sheep let's face it, every sporting industry is full of sheep. They just follow. If they haven't made the mental adjustment to say the winds drop, I'll still ride conservatively like we were in races 1 to 6, like you say.
Yeah.
So if there's identical, it maps out like the way you thought it would, like hell or high water going to front to control, and others aren't forcing the issue, the race is at that horse's mercy, surely.
Absolutely, that's how it
Especially when they're first up.
Yeah.
They don't want to test it out, you know.
Yeah, and this is why the champions of any sport make the necessary adjustments, and they can adjust quicker than the rest.
Well, that's
because they've got a great brain.
Well, that's what I do. I'm not big on, because I've been in the country and I'm betting early in the day and I'm betting on all the different tracks, and you know, Potts has betting on 4. He does Potts plays in the country, but I'm betting on 60 different tracks, you know, regularly. So I don't. It's just another variable. I try and keep sight, and I rate the good jockeys on the day.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm going to back the best horse and they're on it. Let them work it out, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that, DK, because I've watched D. Oliver from a young kid coming into the system. Mark Bayless was a guy that come to Collingwood and he had a connection with D. Oliver. And Ollie was one guy that come down to our footy training years and years and years ago. But as a young person, he used to go to country tracks, and say if he drew barrier 3, and after walking the track, if you watched him in races 1, 2 and 3 and he tried to steer his horse to lanes 5, 6 and 7, even though he drew inside, he knew before anyone else knew where the best turf was. So I reckon when you watch racing and you're not having a bet, you're impartial just to the race only, always look at C. Williams, look at D. Oliver. If they're trying to gain an advantage from where they're drawn, trying to go back where their fast lanes is, that's where you know, that's where they'll be.
I had a perfect example at Benalla last Monday. So I did my jockey ratings, had Ben Thompson on top.
Yep.
So I get to race 1, and the favourite, which the obvious was $1.50.
Yep.
So if it's 2 to 1 you want to be on it, 6 to 1 you want it, 2 to 1, $1.50 you're trying to find something to beat it.
Yep.
Down the page is Ben Thompson, 20 to 1 chance. So had a bit of form, okay. Barrier 7, he hopefully puts this in a good spot. You'll sort of like to be up and off at Benalla, you know, and just rode it absolutely perfect. Favourite puts itself in the 1-1, so he parked outside it. You know, got a break on it and it couldn't really min. You know, and that's the jockey's won that race. Another probably wouldn't have won on that horse, but he's riding at the peak of his powers at Benalla. Beat Thompson, #1 rated jock. So you know, I didn't know if there was any wind blowing or whatever. I'll let him work it out. You know.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Outstanding young jockey.
Yeah,
he's one that from walking the tracks, he seems to find the right lane a lot. Ethan Brown, I mentioned on the show a few years ago, he's another. And Regan Bayless is pretty good too. So
there's a great depth of talent there, isn't there, with those boys?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Who's the best of that crew? Bo Mertens?
I reckon Pete Thompson's caught up to him. Has he put Potts?
Yeah. Well, so Bo was on fire last year when he was getting the advantage of getting really good rides on horses trainers wanted to claim on.
Yep.
So he's lost that advantage now. So he's going to have to polish it up in other areas to continue getting the right rides to challenge people like Williams and Oliver. So he's got work to do. Right?
And if you're talking about a manager, and if you were his manager, you talk about polishing up in those areas, what would they be? Because these are the advantages the non-professional punter has to get a part of.
The subtleties, you know.
The subtleties.
It's a really hard question to answer because what I'm saying, in the middle of last year when he was getting a lot of good rides, it can cover up little cracks in your riding. It allows you to be a lot more assertive.
Yeah.
And if you're on the best horse, you can make a couple of little mistakes and still get the job done. And the #1 component you have to have is being assertive and taking up winning positions, which he did superbly all last season. So I mean, he's got to make sure he maintains that in his game, doesn't get too conservative. But if you're not on the better horses, that can, you know, you can ride a lot of good races and run 2nd, 3rd, and 4th a lot. You know, so it is a tricky situation. So much about where the jockeys finish is about getting on the right rides. And one of the reasons why Craig Williams is so hard to beat in the premiership is because he's a genius at getting on the right horses.
As we saw late in that premiership. So it was 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks before it finished. I sort of on Wednesday the rides coming out. So he was on that $1.50 chance of Wears, that the thing they've been running behind Royal Symphony. It's a moral, and then I had a look at his other rides. Anyway, he had 4 or 5 good rides, and I thought, what price is he in the Jockeys Premiership? And he was still $1.75. And I rang Potts. I said, what do you think? Who's riding better out of both of them? He said, Craig's definitely riding better at the moment. If you want to say, I'll go and get what I can on. Not much, but $1.75, and cheery moment. He just that was the way it panned out. Potts. He was right.
After that meeting, it was all over.
It was all over. Yeah. Because he's so hard to beat, and he'd done all the groundwork and.
So anyway, just something else to that. Vega Man just run the best figures of the day by miles. Just a genuine Group 1 horse. He's an absolute brute of a horse, and just competitive in anything he runs in.
So it wasn't a trot and canter. He was just going at a good tempo and then finished it off. So I don't.
He built,
right,
but he's run sensational sectionals.
Yeah.
Like when you got to take the wind into account a little bit, but like he's run better sectionals than everything on the day, and he's 1400, and there's a lot of 11 and 1200 metre races on the day. So just
out of that race behind.
Yeah, there's some good runs if he set up a good race. That'll provide a good platform for a few behind him.
I think so. Yeah, I think both it and the Hell or High Water races, a lot of good runs in behind in those races. So one that comes to me behind Hell or High Water is Gardini. He's a very talented horse, and he had over a year off. He's had 2 runs for Darren Weir. If Darren Weir can keep him together and get him to a 6 or 7 run prep, there's a good race in that horse for sure. You know, and there's all those Weir runners in there behind Vega Magic, and that's just, as Deco said, it's a great platform for them. So anyway, after all that on Saturday, if Chocoholic gets the bob in the last, the day's not too bad for us. But
that's the way it pans out when you're going. Amazing how those photos go against you in together pots. I mean, we had that horror boot on Friday to go Woodhouse horse at Bendigo, big first starter, trolled sensational. They bet $5 or something, you know. It's and to his credit, he had about 6 or 8 close finishes out of 10 races. It was the only one he got wrong.
Oh.
So we're all going, oh, it's won, and it looked like it sort of won, and then it's got beat by the 40-1 first starter, you know. Anyway, it's amazing how they come together, pots.
That's it.
When you need one.
Exactly right.
Anyway.
So anyway, like the good thing is that I think after we've had a few sort of building meetings from the top class horses for the spring, and the ratings are shaping up really well. They're trustworthy. So they're going to, the horses that have been racing in Melbourne are going to pose a challenge for the horses coming down from Sydney. So it's not just going to be a case of just back the Sydney horses. It'll be a good mix, I think, at this stage, because they've had some really fast tracks up there with some great racing, and we've had some good stuff down here. And I think it's shaping up as a tremendous spring.
Is there a horse to fight for the punters out of that meeting going forward?
Yeah, I really like Gardini. You've got to keep backing Vega Magic and anything it runs in. So yeah.
Was Nora Red a good ride?
Yeah,
I saw it sort of getting home and everything. I know it was at a stop, but Jesus, seems if you hit
the first 3 there in that race, DK.
Yeah.
So Trekking had a real advantage over them, having had the recent run of the fast race.
Yep.
And he's just no good, so he's given himself up forever.
Yep.
At that level. But Merchant Navy, Booker, and Murray.
They're serious horses, aren't
Is
they?
Merchant Navy a Golden Rose type horse? Or there's others like Minari that might have the wood on it?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a competitive race. Merchant Navy's...
That
was a big effort Saturday, really. Like
First up.
He sort of tagged in the race at the appropriate time when they sort of bunched on the corner, didn't he?
Yeah, it's still a really good effort. It'll take a heap of benefit out of that. So I think he's just like that. It's a matter of how much he can improve. And
Kieran Maher will be ready. He'll be prepared for 3 or 4 runs down the track, which it might be a race like that. Or,
what's in 3 weeks away, the Golden Rose?
So
it'll be a super competitive race.
$1 million.
Snowden will have 2 or 3 probably,
and
you got
Vader.
Minari's just like a rocket. Whether he's a
the other one we
1400,
haven't seen yet is probably Kementari, when it's had one go over that 1400, exploded through when it sat behind leader that day in Sydney.
A good man that writes every week. He's obviously a very astute, tough old punter. Ray wrote me a whole email about that horse you just mentioned. It was called
Kementari.
Lonro. He thinks it's got a lot in common with Lonro. He's very keen on it.
Well, even in that first race on Saturday in Sydney, when Huey went to the front on that horse Super X, that horse that's got touted with untapped ability, Bo Jess ran third, first up 1300, ran quick time. You'd think it's got an enormous amount of upside, but we might see it down here from Caulfield Guineas. It's one to keep an eye on.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. So that'll look some par one.